I never believed that someone could watch you for weeks without you ever noticing, until the night I found the first photo taped to my front door. It was taken from across the street, zoomed in through my living room window, and I was in it, sitting on my couch, completely unaware. That was the moment I realized this wasn't random. Someone had been studying my life. And if you think this can't happen to you, stay with me, because what followed still keeps me awake at night. Before I go any further, if you're into real stories that make your skin crawl, hit like and subscribe to True Scare Tales so you don't miss the next one. Trust me, the stories only get darker from here. This all started in late October, when I moved into a small rental house on a quiet street just outside town. It was the kind of neighborhood where nothing ever seemed to happen. Elderly couples watered their lawns at sunrise, kids rode bikes until sunset, and by 9 p.m. the entire street felt asleep. It felt safe, almost too safe. The house itself was modest but cozy, with large front windows that let in warm afternoon light. I remember thinking I'd finally found a place where I could relax. The first strange thing was subtle. A feeling, like being watched. You know that instinct you can't explain, when the back of your neck tingles and you find yourself turning around for no reason. I brushed it off as stress from the move, but then small details began to stack up. My trash can, which I left by the curb, would sometimes be slightly moved the next morning. My porch light, which I always turned off before bed, was on one night when I woke up at 3 a.m. I told myself I was just forgetful. Then came the first photo. It was taped neatly to the center of my front door, no envelope, no note. Just a printed photo of me inside my own house. My heart started pounding so loudly I could hear it in my ears. I ran outside, scanning the street, expecting to see someone running away. But there was nothing. No footsteps, no cars, no movement. Just the hum of a distant streetlight. I convinced myself it had to be a prank. Maybe a neighbor's kid. Maybe someone is trying to scare the new guy on the block. But deep down, I knew the photo wasn't taken by accident. The angle was perfect. Whoever took it knew exactly where to stand. Over the next week, more photos appeared. One showed me carrying groceries inside. Another showed me asleep on the couch, my TV casting a blue glow across the room. That one made my stomach drop. It meant they were close enough to see through the gap in my curtains. I stopped sleeping well after that. Every sound outside made me freeze. A passing car, leaves scraping across the pavement, a dog barking 3 houses down. I started checking the locks multiple times before bed. I even pushed a chair under the doorknob, something I hadn't done since I was a kid afraid of monsters. One night, around 2:17 a.m., I woke to a faint clicking sound. Not loud, just a soft, rhythmic click, click, click. At first I thought it was my refrigerator cycling on and off. But the sound was too deliberate, too steady. I sat up in bed, holding my breath. Click. It was coming from the window. My bedroom blinds were closed, but I could see the faint silhouette of something moving outside. A shadow shifting slightly, as if someone were adjusting their stance. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. My heart felt like it might give me away. Then my phone buzzed on the nightstand. Unknown number. A text message. Nice curtains. My blood turned to ice. I didn't respond. I couldn't. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. I stayed frozen for what felt like hours, until eventually the shadow disappeared and the night returned to its unnatural silence. The next morning, there was another photo on my door. This one was different. It was taken through my bedroom window. You could see me sitting up in bed, my face pale in the glow of my phone screen. In the corner of the photo, barely visible, was the edge of a gloved hand, as if the photographer had accidentally captured part of themselves. That was the moment I called the police. They took my report, collected the photos, and promised to patrol the neighborhood more often. But there were no fingerprints, no witnesses, no security cameras on my street. To them, it was a nuisance case. To me, it was my life. I installed motion lights. I bought thicker curtains. I even set up a cheap security camera facing the front yard. For 2 nights, nothing happened. I almost convinced myself it was over. On the 3rd night, the camera detected motion at 3:03 a.m. I opened the app, my hands trembling, and replayed the footage. At first, the yard looked empty. Then, from the far left edge of the frame, a figure slowly leaned into view. They were wearing a dark hoodie and a mask, not a Halloween mask, but something plain and expressionless. They didn't approach the house. They just stood there, staring directly into the camera, as if they knew I was watching. They raised one hand and waved. I couldn't breathe. The next frame showed them holding up something rectangular. A photo. Even through the grainy night vision, I recognized it instantly. It was a picture of me watching the camera footage on my phone, taken less than a minute earlier through my living room window. They weren't just watching me. They were always one step ahead. I grabbed my keys and left the house right then and there. I didn't pack. I didn't turn off the lights. I just drove, my chest tight, my eyes darting to the rear view mirror every few seconds. I checked into a motel on the edge of town and didn't sleep until the sun came up. The police reviewed the footage, but the figure's face was hidden and no vehicle was seen nearby. It was as if they had appeared out of nowhere and vanished the same way. For a few days, nothing happened. No photos, no messages. I started to believe that leaving the house had ended it. Maybe they lost interest. Maybe they moved on to someone else. The thought made me sick, but I clung to the idea that I was safe. Then on the 5th night at the motel, I heard a knock on my door. 3 slow taps. I froze. The motel was nearly empty, and I hadn't told anyone where I was staying. I waited, hoping whoever it was would leave. Another 3 taps. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. You forgot to close the bathroom curtain. My entire body went numb. I turned slowly toward the bathroom. The light was off, but the thin curtain over the small frosted window was slightly open, just enough for someone outside to see in. I didn't open the door. I didn't make a sound. I stayed awake until morning, sitting in a chair with my back against the wall, staring at the handle, waiting for it to turn. When I finally checked out, the motel clerk handed me an envelope. "Someone dropped this off for you," she said. Inside was a single photo. It showed me asleep in the chair, taken through the small gap in the curtains. That was 6 months ago. I moved to a different state. I changed my number. I stopped posting on social media. I never stay anywhere long enough to feel comfortable. Sometimes late at night, I still feel that familiar prickling on the back of my neck. The sense that somewhere someone is watching, waiting for the right moment to remind me they never really left. If you've ever felt like you were being watched and couldn't explain why, share your experience in the comments. And if this story made you check your locks tonight, send it to a friend who needs a reminder that real fear doesn't come from ghosts, it comes from the living.